Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Tuesday, June 2nd, Fargo Planning Commission meeting. It's 3 p.m. Today, items 3A, B, and C.
Your line has been muted.
Touchmark addition plat will be continued. Item 7, the conditional use permit to allow for alternative access plan in Austin Subdivision will also be continued. For these items, there will be no presentation by staff or the applicant, nor any action taken by the commission. Is anyone present who intended to testify on these items? And it looks like there is not in the room, so I'll move on to the approval of the order of agenda. Can I get a motion to accept the approval on the order of agenda?
John, this is Rocky, so moved.
And this is Scott, all second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is just a voice vote. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, we can move on to the minutes from the meeting of May 7th, 2020. I'll take a motion to accept the minutes.
This is Dawn. I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes.
I have a motion. I need a second.
Brad Bachmeyer, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or corrections on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to the brown bag. There'll be no brown bag luncheon this month. So moving on to item D, public hearing items. Item 1, continue the hearing on an application requesting a plat of Tice Addition, minor subdivision, a replat of a portion of Lot 6 and all of lots 11 and 12. Donald.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Donald Kress with the Department of Planning and Development. As Chairman stated, item 1 is the Tice Addition. We'll have the PowerPoint here. This is located on 19th Avenue South. As you see, there are 2 lots, 714 and 718. They are both residential lots, zoned SR2, single dwelling residential. There you see the lots. See the lots here. They back up to I-94. There is that interstate sound wall here. You've all been by this here. So these lots are, in a way, extra deep because they have the, you might say a normal size lot, which is about here, how it's originally platted. And then they also have this additional piece. They all have this additional piece that goes back here. So these lots are pretty deep due to their proximity to the interstate. This is 714. This is viewed from the street, 714 19th Avenue, and this is the next door house, 718. I just happened to be there this morning taking pictures when the homeowner there, Mrs. Anderson, was out, and she invited me into the backyard. As we get forward in this discussion, Commissioners, will be talking about these fences. So this is 714 here, and they have built a fence along the property line with 718 and then swung it around the back, and then this is the borderline with the adjacent property here. So that's one, and that's the plat configuration. It's gonna change this one lot to be much larger in the rear. And then this is the other side of the fence. This is the yard at 718, and here is the other side of the same fence. There's that shed right there. So this is the property that will, the smaller of the 2 properties to be subdivided. And here's the plat. So again, this is 714 here, and the proposal, the current lot line is right here. As you see, the proposal is to turn that lot line here so that lot 2 here has a very large backyard, and Lot 1 is still a good-sized lot there. That's almost 11,000 square feet. It's greater than the minimum required lot area for that zone, the SR2 zone, similar in size to the lots that are across the street here. As you'll see in your packets, Commissioner, there was considerable neighborhood opposition to this project. In fact, this was originally scheduled for the May Planning Commission. Staff became aware of this opposition right before we were going to send out packets. So we asked to talk to the applicants, the Andersons, Ken and Kim Anderson, and talk to them about continuing this so we could do some more work with the neighborhood. They requested that continuance to today. And planning staff did host an online neighborhood meeting with the applicants, and some of the neighbors did call in Thursday, May 21st. Planning staff did address some of the concerns that were brought forward in that in those public comments there, but the representatives from the neighborhood who were there remained definite in their opposition to this project. You will see, as you know, commissioners, it is our policy to just forward all the comments that we get to you. We don't edit anything. It may be the case that some of the comments are not particularly focused on the land use question here, but again, you get everything we get for your consideration and review. This plat, of course, has gone through the normal review channels with several departments reviewing it. Staff finds no reason that the plat like this can't be done. Admittedly, you don't see a configuration like this real often, but there's no reason that you can't do it. There were questions about emergency services and specials, and we resolved those, that this will not affect the adequacy of those emergency services or affect the specials on the adjoining properties or the individual properties. We did consult with our specials manager, Dan Eberhardt, on that question. So, therefore, commissioners, the recommendation from staff is for approval, as stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. Also today, emailed out about 2 o'clock, you did receive some additional letters from one of the neighbors there that also follow up on the comments there. Some additional detailed comments and some more interaction with one of the neighbors there. So that concludes staff's presentation, commissioners. I believe Mr. Ken Anderson is on the call here. He is the owner of both of these properties. Thank you, commissioners.
Yes, I am. This is Ken Anderson.
Just a second here. I guess, commissioners, first of all, are there any questions for Donald? Any questions for staff? All right, Mr. Anderson, if you would like to speak in this matter.
Yes, this is Ken Anderson. We are me and my wife, Kim, are owners of both properties right now, and we just wanted a nice, bigger, unobstructed backyard for the 714 property, which is our main residence, as well as making a more manageable yard for the 718 property. Our intended use is just to kind of keep it as it is, have a garden, landscaping, just keep it open.
Any question, commissioners, for Mr. Anderson?
Yes, this is Dawn Morgan.
Go ahead, Dawn.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't understand what the intention of the project is, and is it to make your yard larger and to be able to enjoy?
That's correct.
More?
Yes,
Excuse me?
It's to make our backyard larger. Correct.
Okay, and you aren't planning any kind of a construction project there?
No, absolutely not.
So
We
no
intend to
additional
keep it-
buildings?
Correct. We got
No additional buildings?
that is correct. No additional buildings other than small garden sheds.
What is the grade up then, if there isn't going to be additional driveways or buildings?
No, there's not.
But why is there so much opposition then?
But yeah, that's a good question. We wonder the same thing because we're just basically maintaining the neighborhood feel the way it's been for years. I'm not sure why it's warranted.
Is it possible to ask Donald a question?
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Donald, do you have any insight into why there's so much opposition?
Commissioner Morgan, the best staff can say, and we've looked at this quite a bit in planning staff, particularly myself and our Assistant Director, Mark Williams, is the main concern of the neighbors is that this will change the character of the neighborhood somehow. The neighbor adjacent to the west does make the point that now instead of having one neighbor along her property line, she will have two, which might be a little different. That is, this property owner here normally would just have one neighbor. Now she has two. The buildings will look the same from the front. The view will be unaltered. That's where we took those first shots there. That's not going to alter what you're going to see from the front. Here you do see that fence running along between the property lines there, but then there's another. You can't see very well the chain link fence that goes across there. There's a gate. All the lots do meet the minimum requirements for the zone. We did observe to the neighbors that the SR2 zone does restrict what can be built there. You can't build another, they're restricted by the lot coverage maximum and, the types of uses that can be put in there. So honestly, as it's stated in your staff report there, ma'am, the concerns of the neighbors in general grouped generally would be that they would alter the character of the neighborhood. They would impact the property values of the surrounding property owners, which is really something that's in the real estate market. The planning department is not involved in setting value or assessing value. It could impact emergency services access. We did talk to our fire marshal, Ryan Erickson, who I believe is also on the call today, and he evaluated the situation and determined that it would not do so. They were concerned it would affect existing easements in the rear yards of these properties. As you can see on the plat here, the existing easements are depicted. There's a big power line that runs down the middle here. And these are depicted. They do carry through when replatting. In fact, we did make the point that not only is this plat prepared by a licensed surveyor, but when it comes to the city for review, it is reviewed by our licensed surveyor and civil engineers to make sure that those surveying the surveying items are consistent. That, easements don't just disappear or get lost or something as part of that. And there was concern it would affect the surrounding special assessments. Special assessments for these properties are based on the front foot, not the square foot of the lot. There is no additional. Work to be done in 19th Avenue as a result of this. There are no services that need to be added or removed or capped. There is no additional paving that needs to be required. There's no new driveways to be added. And so there would be no special assessments either for these lots or the adjacent lots. One neighbor did observe, but if the two lots pay the same specials, one guy's paying specials for a lot bigger area and one guy's paying specials for a lot smaller area, so somebody's getting a better deal than the other guy. That is the case, but specials are assessed on the front foot, not the square foot. And so that is the nature of that. Included was a petition signed by 22 property owners, 23 originally, but we were forwarded an email from one person who apparently indicated they wanted to withdraw their opposition. So there is one correction to that. And the applicant, as we also see in your packet, did have some response to the neighbors' concerns, sent out one letter some time ago, a couple weeks ago, and then I believe in your packet today there's one that was sent to one of the neighbors in the past couple days here. So there's been some interaction that the planning department is not part of. We are not involved in any of those letters. So that's the best answer I can give you, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, Donald. I'd just like to say that as neighborhood preservationists that there's no development or no roadways, and there's just the maintenance of green space, it doesn't seem to me that that's a problem.
All right. Hey, Dawn, can I also remind you to mute your
I'm doing
speaker
that.
when you are? Okay, thank you.
I am.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the applicant?
All right, so let's do
Any other questions, commissioners?
replumbing the building.
Anyone wish to open it up to the public? Anyone wish to speak for or against this?
An option. Yeah, like we discussed.
Do we have a caller? No caller. Okay. All right. Commissioners, are we ready to act?
John, I'd be happy to move to accept the findings and recommendations of staff. This is Brad Bachmeyer.
Thank you, Brad. I have a motion, and do I have a second?
Scott Stoffer, and I have second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Jennifer Holtz.
Aye.
Don Morgan.
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer.
Aye.
Scott Stoffren.
Aye.
Art Rosenberg.
Aye.
Rocky Schneider.
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. Moving on to item 2. Continue the hearing on an application requesting a conditional use permit to allow for a telecommunications support structure 199 feet in height in the general commercial zoning district. Maggie.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Item number 2 is titled Richard III Subdivision. It is located at 6120 53rd Avenue South. The applicant, Scott Jones, is joining us virtually today, and they are requesting a conditional use permit to allow a 199-foot tall telecommunications support system tower in the GC zoning district. So as you'll see here, this is a subject property. Scott Jones from KFNW is considering moving their studio from its current location at 5702 52nd Avenue to the subject property at 6120 53rd Avenue South and constructing a 199-foot tall telecommunications support structure, otherwise known as a TSS. The station currently has 5 towers located along the southwest corner of 52nd Avenue and Veterans Boulevard. So before constructing the proposed 199-foot TSS, 4 guide towers would be removed from the Veterans Boulevard location, leaving just one single 80-foot tower in place to continue broadcasting operations. According to the applicant, the new 199-foot tower would be a lattice tower and it would be unlit. The tower will be painted gray to dull its appearance, and the existing trees on the subject property, paired with the solar array from the south, would help conceal much of the structure. A minimum 6-foot opaque fence or wall will also be required around the base of the structure. After construction of the proposed 199-foot TSS is completed, the 80-foot tower that remains on Veterans Boulevard will be removed. So, as is practice, notice of this project was sent to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, and to date, staff received only 1 inquiry and no formal complaints. This was provided to us, and it's not a formal building permit submittal, but it is just a guide for what KFNW is thinking could happen at the site. You'll see this is the small pad for the proposed tower, and then the tree line that exists on the subject property. Staff is recommending 3 conditions to be associated with the CUP. First is that the base of the TSS must be enclosed by an opaque fence or wall of at least 6 feet in height and of a character to provide adequate visual screening that would limit access to the TSS. The second is that completing construction of the proposed 199-foot tower, the property owner will have 60 days to remove the remaining 80-foot tower from the 5702 52nd Avenue South location. And third, the conditional use permit will cease if the land use changes from that office, that radio station office. So staff finds that all criteria have been met and we are recommending approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time, as well as Scott Jones, I believe, is available as well. Thanks.
All right. Any questions for Maggie, commissioners? Hearing none. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Unless there's questions for me, I think Maggie did a great job.
Any questions for the applicant, commissioners? All right, seeing none, hearing none. Anyone wish to speak? I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak for or against this project? All right, seeing none. Commissioners, are you ready to act? I need a motion.
This is Dawn Morgan. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Brad Bachmeyer, second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion, commissioners? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Rocky Schneider,
Aye.
Jennifer Holtz,
Aye.
Scott Stoffren,
Aye.
Don Morgan,
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer,
Aye.
Art Rosenberg,
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries. All right, moving on to item 4A. Hearing on an application requesting a zoning change from MR3 multi-dwelling residential to LC limited commercial on the proposed addition, third addition.
Third addition, yes.
Okay, it's a tongue twister. All right, Donald.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Gunkelman. This project site, the third addition, is located here on 38th Street South. This is I-29, this is Microsoft, this is the Cobalt Hospital here, these are apartments, Cottagewood Park. Again, here's the proposed site. It takes an existing lot that's right here on the corner and adds just a little piece of this MR3 lot. So that's the platting part, and the zone change part would be to rezone this all to LC limited commercial, which is this is what the Cobalt Hospital here is zoned, and that's what the land use plan would allow for this here. So to allow this to be a commercial space rather than a residential multifamily space. Out there this morning taking a few pictures right before it started raining. Here we're standing across 38th Street looking across the property, and then walked around the curve and taking a picture here. So here's that Cobalt Hospital, and then the new property line would be about here, following that curve on 38th Street. Here that is again. Very simple plat here, prepared by Houston Engineering. I believe Mr. Brian Pattengale is on the call here from Houston Engineering as the project representative. And again, for the plat and zone change here, recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. Thank you, Commissioners. That concludes our presentation.
All right, Commissioners, any questions for Donald? Hearing none. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Only if you have any questions, Commissioners.
Any questions for Brian, Commissioners? All right, so with no questions, I'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this project? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, are you ready to act? I'll accept the motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the.
Just, Jennifer, I think you started that one, right? Go ahead.
Yep, sorry, this is Jennifer Holt. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to accept the.
Okay, I have a motion. I need a second.
Brad Bachmeyer, second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Commissioners, you ready to act? Pardon me. Roll call vote. Tongue twister here. Roll call vote, please.
Jennifer Holtz,
Aye.
Scott Stofferin,
Aye.
Art Rosenberg,
Aye.
Don Morgan,
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer,
Aye.
Rocky Schneider,
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye, pardon me. Motion carries. Moving on to item 5, a hearing on an application requesting a zoning change from SR2 single dwelling residential to GC general commercial with a conditional overlay to general commercial. Aaron.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Item 5A, 5B, Sanford South Campus Edition. This is a request for a zoning map amendment and a minor subdivision. This application is represented by Foss Architecture on behalf of Sanford Health and Corey Bischoff. The subject property is located on the 1700 block of University Drive South and 11th Street South. This is the location of the Sanford facility on South University Drive there. The applicant is seeking the proposed zone change in minor subdivision in order to accommodate a proposed entrance addition to the existing facility on the east side of the building, as well as a parking lot expansion along the eastern portion of that block. The proposed subdivision would replat the subject property into one single lot and would vacate a portion of an existing public utility easement, which runs kind of down the central middle portion of the subdivision there. One thing to note about the proposed plat, there was an updated plat submitted after the packet went out, and so you all should have received an updated copy of the subdivision plat via email yesterday, which is included on the screen here in front of you. The proposed zoning map amendment would rezone 5 former residential lots from SR2 to GC, which you can see on the zoning map on the screen there. Kind of the central eastern portion of the subject property is within the SR2 zoning district. And the proposal is to rezone those properties to GC to be consistent with the remainder of the Sanford facility at that location. In addition, the rezone would establish a conditional overlay over the subject property, which would be similar to an existing conditional overlay that actually exists already on the northeast portion of the subject property, where there is a current parking lot on the corner of 17th Avenue South and 11th Street South. The conditional overlay was established in 2007 when that portion of the block was rezoned to general commercial in order to make that existing parking lot, which was constructed in the late 90s, in order to make that parking lot consistent with the zoning regulations at the time. The conditional overlay was a result of some conversations with the adjacent neighborhood at that time, having to do with concerns with the expansion of the parking lot and the impacts to the adjacent neighborhood to the east. And so the conditional overlay language that's proposed with the current zoning change would essentially take the same conditional overlay standards and apply them to the remainder of the property. And as you can see on the screen here and in your staff report, there are basically three standards that are included in that conditional overlay, essentially establishing a 9-foot landscape buffer along the north, east, and south streets of that parking lot expansion, requiring some internal landscaping of the parking lot, and then restricting the number of driveways onto 11th Street South. The city staff did hold or first of all, Sanford Health has provided a couple of renderings here. I don't know if you can see those on your screen, just to kind of show what their development intent is. Again, that would include an entrance addition kind of in the middle portion of their existing facility, and then the construction of a parking lot along the entire eastern portion of that block. Sanford has done some outreach with the adjacent neighborhood in terms of letting residents know what their intent is. In addition to that, staff did host a virtual meeting with adjacent residents and property owners on May 26th, at which time I guess 3 attendees were able to join that virtual meeting. Nobody really had any specific or strong reservations about the proposal. Kind of the main points of conversation were concerns with Sanford acquiring additional properties to the east of 11th Street, which they have stated they don't intend to do. And then there was some comments regarding the current parking restrictions on 11th Street. That particular individual, there's no parking currently allowed on 11th Street during regular business hours, and that particular individual would like parking to be considered during business hours, since there will be additional off-street parking with Sanford's proposed development of this site. In addition to that, I know we do have one individual here who probably has some additional comments for you all as well, which are not included in the staff report here. But overall, staff finds that the request meets the applicable review criteria of the Land Development Code as outlined in the staff report, and staff is recommending approval. And I would be happy to answer any questions you might have for staff.
Any questions for Aaron, commissioners?
The trailer was 700 something.
Oh, this is Dawn Morgan.
Go ahead.
Hi, Aaron. I was just wondering now, the place where the parking lot is proposed, I assume that that entire block had been residential and had been purchased by Sanford.
Yeah, I can maybe start to answer that question, and then I know we have some representatives from Sanford on the call as well, who I might ask to help me out. But it's my understanding, I think there are 2 existing parking lots on the east side of that block currently. There's a parking lot on the northeast corner of the block that was constructed, I believe, in 1996. And then there was a smaller parking lot existing on the southeast corner of the lot that was constructed in 1993. In between those 2 lots on the corners, yes, it is my belief that at one point in time, the entire eastern portion of that block did contain single-family homes. And over the period of many years, I believe back before Sanford acquired Mericare, they had already begun acquiring some of those properties. And just lately, I think Sanford is in the process of acquiring that final property. And it is kind of the reason that they're bringing this request forward now, because they're ready to move forward with their proposed parking lot expansion.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions for Aaron? All right. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Hi, this is Phil Seek with Sanford Health. We don't have any additional comments. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. All right. I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak for or against this project? Please step up to the podium.
Are we good on, okay, good on volume?
You bet.
Yeah, when this was originally discussed 7, 8 years ago, we were led to believe that the third parking lot would be for staff only. The part about putting in a new entrance is different from what we were led to believe. I live across the street, so I have a pretty good interest in here on 11th Street. And as far as the parking goes, that will come up again. That's been defeated. I told Aaron that's been defeated before. We don't want parking on that street. And we fought to keep it last time. We'll fight to keep it again. But I don't know what the changes were to put another entrance in, what they felt they needed another entrance for, because that's going to bring a whole lot more traffic onto our street. And I understand progress, but yeah, it's my street.
All right.
I like it quiet. I don't think I'm the only one, but frankly, when the drawings came out, it was very difficult to ascertain what they were going to do. I brought this up with Aaron earlier. And now that you see and have it explained, it's easier to read up there. But had I thought to bring the original ones that I had out, I could have showed them to you, and I don't think you would have known what they were going to do, because I didn't, and I'm not really that dumb. But I just say, I don't know, this may need a little more looking at. I'd kind of like to know how much more traffic they're going to bring in. They actually should have some kind of a platform done where they're looking at how much more, because we were just looking at another lot full of staff when they purchased the lots across the street. And with the green space, it seemed like a really good idea. In fact, it was such a good idea, I squawked to this planning commission before when they socked us for new lights. When across the street it's lit up like a Carnival Midway, but we still had to pay for lights on our side, so that was a big thank you. But that's what I have to say. I don't know that this has been thought out enough and given to everyone to make comments on it when they knew exactly what was going to happen. So I would say, I don't know. I know they haven't purchased the last lot on their side of the street, and I don't know if those people are ready to go or if they're not. But I don't see any rush in putting this forward. I think this could go back a little bit for more public comment. And that's essentially what I have to say.
For the record, would you please, pardon me, state your name?
No, David Myers, and my address is 1710 11th Street South.
Thank you. Any questions for David? Commissioners, any questions for him?
I have just a very simple question. This is Dawn Morgan. If you live on 11th Street and the whole block is pretty much owned by Sanford except for one house, where is your house?
My house is across the street on the east side of 11th. The one house they don't own is the last, as far as I know, is the last house on the west side. If you saw the 4 little yellow lots on the display that Aaron had up, those 4 are the remaining houses that have yet to be moved out, and one of those is being lived in. I live on the other side of the street.
I see. So you're one block further east, right?
No, I'm not 1 block further east. That's my block. I'm on the east side of that block rather than the west.
Okay. I'm not quite getting it, but that's all right.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll
If
find
you live
out.
on the north side of 5th Avenue and Sanford was buying everything between 8th Avenue South and 5th Avenue South, wouldn't you be on the same block?
He's across the street, Don, from what would become the park, those houses that would be moved out. He's across the street from them.
Okay, but he's saying to the west.
No,
Sanford
he's on the east side of the street. Sanford, this project is on the west side of the street.
Okay. So how many houses are remaining there? Is there already one lot that goes all the way over to 11th?
Yeah, there's only the 4 houses left on the west side of the street.
And 3 are vacant.
Until they're vacant.
Okay. Well, isn't one of the questions that the neighborhood would like to see is to require no parking on the street so there isn't congestion on the street?
Well, we have no parking on the street, but the last time it was brought up was 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago. We have a rental in the block, on our east side, of a multi-generational family, and they all have vehicles. So they've been trying to get that changed forever, and no one else is going to go along with that.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to clarify one point, you're saying keep no parking on the street?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I just wanted to
they're going to have to
clarify.
have a meeting to change it, and I don't think there's the votes, although I don't speak for everybody on the block, but last time we were all here and it was, 8-1.
Gotcha.
Now, the question I would have about that is Sanford going to exercise their voting rights for owning for owning 9 lots on the other side of the street? Because if Sanford gets in, then with 1 vote, they can get that turned over. But originally they stayed out of it because they said, that's your business, these are your homes. Now, if that's changing, they need to know that too.
Hi, this is Phil Seco, Sanford. If I could speak real quickly to that point, is we are providing enough parking so that there won't be any need for on-street parking for us. So that's part of this plan is as we reinvent our campus there is to provide enough parking so that we don't need to have people parking on the street. So we would support not having parking on the street as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Anyone else from the public wish to speak for or against this? All right, hearing none. I will close the public hearing, and commissioners, are you ready to act? I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. This is John Morgan to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I need a second. Everybody out there needs to wake up. I need a second for the motion.
I'll second. This is Rocky.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I wonder if the reason everybody was holding back was because they are concerned about the entrance in the middle of that parking lot and if it caused traffic problems for the people on 11th Street. And has there been any discussion at all that we know of those entrances? Just having them on either end and not having them in the middle of the street? The planning staff had any discussions with Sanford about that?
Aaron, any comment on that?
Not lately, I guess. So the original language from the conditional overlay was established in 2007 when Maricare at the time, I guess, was originally proposing a parking lot on the east side of that block there. And so the conditional overlay language, like I said, currently exists on that northeast corner of the block where there's a parking lot today, and then there's 2 additional vacant lots to the south of that parking lot that are also within the boundaries of this particular conditional overlay. And so, again, the proposal here would be to basically take that conditional overlay language and apply it to the remainder of the block, so that the Sanford's proposed parking lot, when constructed, it would need to meet all the requirements. And one of those requirements was the restriction that there be no more than 3 access points onto 11th Street. I would imagine there was some conversation on the number of access points at the time in 2007, but recently with this current application, there was no additional conversations specifically pertaining to those access points or the number of access points onto 11th Street.
And as far as you know, Aaron, there has been no other comments from neighbors except the one we heard today about access points.
Correct. Yep, we had, again, that we sent out notices to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property regarding that virtual open house. We had 3 members participate in that open house, and there were no comments made as to the number of access points for that parking lot at that meeting. No.
Were they aware at the time during that public meeting that where the access points were expected to be?
I think at that meeting, the 2 renderings that we have in our slides here are the renderings that were shown, during that public meeting. I don't believe we went over, the specific language of the conditional overlay, other than kind of at a very high level.
Okay,
this is John
you.
Morgan. I just have a design question. Could the Sanford representative respond?
Sure. So it's part of...
Okay, my question is, now you're planning on creating a new kind of major entrance on the east side of the building, is that correct?
It's I wouldn't say major entrance, it's an additional entrance. That's part of our investment. We have a $25 million investment into this facility to consolidate our orthopedic clinic, which is on 25th Street, over to this building, so that we have our outpatient, inpatient, procedural, and therapies for orthopedics all under one roof. Along with that, we needed some additional parking up close to the building for our orthopedic patients and create a efficient and safe way for them to get into the building as an additional entrance. And that's what this is creating. We'll still have the main west entrance. We'll also have our urgent care entrance as well. So we'll basically have 3 access points.
Okay, so the question is this. I'm sure accessibility, if you're talking about orthopedic patients, is an important thing. Does that additional driveway line up with the entrance to the east side of the building? And is there going to be a walkway that's created there to go directly to that new entrance?
Yes, the site plan will show a numerous handicap accessible parking spots along with some other parking spots that are close to the new entrance. As you're probably aware, a lot of those patients coming in are going to be on crutches or have some mobility challenges. So for us to be able to create parking spaces up front to that entrance was pretty critical to patient care, and to also ensure that we don't have our patients or staff parking on the street.
Yes, and so that to me explains why you would want to have that additional access from the street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Are we ready to vote? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll call vote.
Brad Bachmeyer,
Aye.
Don Morgan,
Aye.
Art Rosenberg,
Aye.
Rocky Schneider,
Aye.
Jennifer Holtz,
Aye.
Scott Stofferin,
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, moving on to item 6, a hearing on an application requesting a zoning change from MR2 multi-dwelling residential and DMU downtown mixed use to MR2 multi-dwelling residential and DMU downtown mixed use. All right, Aaron, you're up again.
All right, thank you. So as you mentioned, yes, Craig's Oak Grove second edition. This is a request for a zoning map amendment as well as a minor subdivision. This application is being represented by Jesse Craig of Craig Properties, as well as Tim Gleason of Enclave Development. This subject property is located on the 500 block on the east side of Oak Street North and the south side of 6th Avenue North, just kind of northeast of where we are today. The one note on this before I kind of dive into it is this likely looks very familiar to most of you, which is because this application was actually heard by the Planning Commission back on September 3rd of 2019. At that time, the Planning Commission recommended this application for approval. However, since that time, back in September, the applicant has kind of had to think through some things with his application, and since that time, he has partnered with Enclave Development, at least for a portion of the proposed development on the subject property. And so the design intent is the same, which I'll talk about in a minute here, but the details of the specific design have changed, and as a result, the applicant has amended his application in terms of the location of lot lines and accordingly the location of the zoning map amendment. And so because of those changes to the application, this application is coming back to you for your review for an additional public hearing before it moves on to City Commission for final consideration. And then just another note as well on this one, we did receive an updated application after the packet was sent out to you all. So you should have also received an updated plat via email yesterday for this one as well. And I'll have that plat on the screen here shortly. So with that, again, the applicant is proposing a zone change in minor subdivision to accommodate a proposed residential development on the subject property. The proposed minor subdivision would replat the subject property into 2 lots. Lot 1, which would be located in the northwest corner there, and would be about 0.6 acres in area. And then Lot 2 would be on the south and east sides of the subject property and would be approximately 2.63 acres in area. The zoning amendment, the proposed zoning map amendment, would rezone essentially the north and the northwest portions of Lot 2, of the proposed Lot 2, from MR2, multi-dwelling residential, to DMU, downtown mixed use. And so you can see on the screen in front of you here, there's just a comparison showing the current zoning today and then what the proposed zoning is. And essentially what the proposal is just to expand the DMU boundary to the north and then to the kind of west towards 6th Avenue and towards Oak Street, which would be in alignment with the proposed boundary between Lot 1 and Lot 2 on the proposed subdivision plat. And so again, the result of this zoning change would, if approved, would result in Lot 1 being within the MR2 zoning district and the proposed Lot 2 being located within the DMU downtown mixed use zoning district. And so the applicant has stated that his intent is to construct townhomes on Lot 1 and then a multi-dwelling residential building on Lot 2. The multi-dwelling building is intended to consist of both apartment units and condominium units with underground and surface parking. I've got Donald, if you want to flip ahead a couple slides. This rendering here is provided by the applicant, just showing Lot 2, what their current proposal is for Lot 2 in terms of that multi-dwelling building. And the applicant should be on the line, and I can let him speak to the specifics of their proposed construction plans there. In addition to numerous public engagements and public meetings that have taken place over the past couple of years, as many of you that have been on the Planning Commission long enough might recall, Jesse has been working on this a development proposal for the site for quite some time. And so most recently, before coming to you all today, staff did host a virtual neighborhood meeting with adjacent neighbors and property owners on May 27th. That meeting was attended by 3 representatives of the neighborhood, and most of the concern discussed at that meeting related to the building height as well as the visual aesthetic of the proposed multi-dwelling building, especially as it is adjacent to parkland to the east. In addition to that, staff has received one additional written comment since the Planning Commission last heard this back in September. That comment notes concerns over the lack of space and lack of parking, lack of area for parking for the proposed development, as well as some concerns over garbage on the subject property. And that comment is included in your staff report, along with all the previous comments we received when this was originally heard by the Planning Commission back in September. Overall, as outlined in the staff report, staff does recommend approval for the subject or for the proposed application. While some residents are opposed to the applicant's proposed project, staff finds that the change in zoning is relatively minor compared to the current zoning of MR2 and DMU. It does not substantially change the type of development that can take place on the subject property under the current zoning. Additionally, the applicant is proposing to make a substantial investment in new housing within the vicinity, replacing housing units in need of repair with newly constructed units in this neighborhood. The promotion of infill development is the #2 ranked priority in GO 2030, and the subject property is within walking distance of the downtown core, which provides opportunities for residents to live in close proximity to shopping and to work. Staff finds that the proposal is consistent with the purposes of the LDC, the growth plan, and adopted policies of the city. And so with that, staff is recommending approval again, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have for staff.
Any questions, commissioners, for Aaron?
Yeah, I have some questions, Aaron. When you were walking through the depictions that you said were on the screen, we weren't able to see those. There was so
Sure.
I wasn't quite able to follow along with the revisions you were talking about. And I understand that when we had approved before, that this is something that Mr. Craig had been working on for quite a while. And that now there's some new revisions to the design made, but I'm not quite sure I'm following what those revisions are and how exactly they're going to impact, I'm just not quite sure I was following everything you were saying because I couldn't see what you were talking about.
Okay, so is there anything in particular you'd like to go back and we can certainly take a look at?
Well, you were mentioning that the way the design has changed from so you've got condos and residential units, and then you also have townhomes. So has something changed with the way it's designed or the layout?
Yes. So maybe before diving into that, one thing I just want to make clear is that the application in front of you, in front of the Planning Commission here today is a request for a minor subdivision to create 2 lots out of the subject property, and then a request for a zone change, essentially to modify the boundary between the DMU and the MR2 zoning district. So in essence, the DMU zoning district would be expanding towards the north, towards 6th Avenue, and then towards the west a little bit towards Oak Street. And so that's the proposal in front of you here today. In terms of the changes to the specifics of the development that is proposed by the applicant, those design renderings and things have been provided by the applicant just to kind of give us a sense of what he's proposing to do and why these changes are needed. The specifics of the proposal are not specifically tied to the zoning or anything like they would be if it was a PUD, for example. The PUD really ties the development standards to the zoning. And so I just want to make that point clear. Although we do certainly believe what Jesse is telling us, what the applicant is telling us, I just want to make sure that it's understood that the details of their exact number of units, number of parking stalls, things like that, are not incorporated in the zoning with a zoning change. And so with that, Donald, if you wouldn't mind going back to that rendering slide that they had. This rendering here, I can let the applicant kind of speak to what has changed in terms of the specifics of their building concepts. In essence, when the Planning Commission heard this back in September, the layout at that time, it was 2-lot minor subdivision. Lot 1 was kind of an L shape, and it fronted Oak Street and 6th Avenue. And the proposal at that time was that townhomes would kind of be fronting Oak Street and then fronting 6th Avenue, with the multi-dwelling building kind of more centrally and southerly and easterly located. And so with the changes since the Planning Commission heard this case back in September, Lot 1 has now taken on more of a rectangular shape. As you can see with the yellow dashed lines there, would be representing the location of the lot line between Lot 1 and Lot 2. And now Lot 2 is more of kind of that L shape, if you will, with kind of some more frontage along Oak Street and then some frontage along 6th Avenue, which was not included when this was before the Planning Commission back in September. So hopefully that provided a little bit of context for what has changed since the Planning Commission heard this in September, and I'd be happy to talk more about that, or again, I can let the applicant speak to the specifics of their building itself.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification, Aaron.
This is Dawn Morgan. Yeah. So on the north side there, it looks like there's been an addition of green space. Is that correct?
On the north end of the DMU piece, Dawn?
Yes, yeah.
I think that's the driveway. Well, that's at least in this proposed one, that would be the driveway going into the end of the building, it looks like to me.
Okay, well, I see that, but then to the south of that driveway, it looks like there's some green space. How deep is that green space?
I might have to defer to the applicant on that question.
Okay, I just have one other question. One of the things that the neighborhood has consistently complained about was additional traffic and adequate access to this building site, and then the parking issue. Is there prohibition of off-street or on-street parking included in this package?
So included in the proposal in front of you here today, there would be no proposed changes to any of the on-street parking or anything like that. Just for some additional background and context, Jesse Craig brought forward an application for Craig's Oak Grove First Edition, which was approved by the City Commission back in January of 2019. And that was a request for a major subdivision, which basically vacated an alley that used to be kind of in the middle of this block. And with that major subdivision, it also dedicated right-of-way for a cul-de-sac bulb on the south end of Oak Street North, where that street dead ends. Formerly, that Oak Street Oak Street North, as it went south, it connected to the alley that ran east and then north through that block. And so since that alley went away, the cul-de-sac bulb was added as a turnaround to that dead-end street. And so a number of kind of the traffic movement concerns and things were largely addressed at that time.
All right, any questions?
Is there any possibility that the parking considerations could be taken into account to make the building a little more self-contained rather than spilling out into the neighborhood regarding parking?
Let's open it up to the applicant to explain, at least Dawn, and we might get some of the questions about maybe underground parking and that they might be proposing. Is Jesse on, or who's on?
Hey guys, this is Tim Gleason with Enclave Development,
Okay.
alongside Craig. Don, thanks for the questions. I think the first one you're asking was about green space. I believe you're referring to the east portion of the property, which shows about 30 feet to the edge of the property line. And then as far as parking, right now we have about 117 units slated for multifamily with 14 condominiums. With that, we have about 220 total on-site parking spots for that. So to put that into perspective, that's 2 underground parking spots plus some additional for the condos, as well as about 1.65 parking spots per unit for the multifamily. So for downtown infill core projects, this is excessive from developments that we've seen. So we believe that on-site parking is more than sufficient to carry this type of density on the site. So I hope that helps answer some of those questions.
One more question from Don Morgan. That whole area is terribly impacted by traffic, a narrow road, which is good, and then Oak Grove at the end of the road on South Terrace. And there's so much congestion there with people parking on the street as you get further east. I'm wondering if there's any possibility for a consideration of prohibition of on-street parking on that. Is that South Terrace and then Oak Street?
I think, Aaron, that's out of the realm of this application, isn't it, at this time?
It is. It's something that was not really discussed as part of this particular application. I know some of the amount of traffic and concerns like that were brought up. I think this originally came to Planning Commission back in September, but there's no proposed there's no proposed changes to any of the parking as part of the current application.
Aaron, can I jump in?
Yep, Brenda Derrig, our city engineer.
Yes, any traffic concerns can always be brought up by the local neighbors to our traffic tech committee. And so as there's any issues with any parking, they're always able to bring those to our traffic group. And so as of yet, we have not seen any requests.
Okay, well, I think that would be a good idea as a next move for the neighbors there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the applicant, as long as we got him on the line?
I do have one more, and this is Jennifer.
Go ahead.
I realize that as for what we're deciding on today, this may not have any, but out of reality, with this neighborhood being designated a National Historic Neighborhood, the depiction of the design that we saw looks really modern, and I'm just wondering if the developer is aware of just the historical nature of the neighborhood and how they're planning on incorporating the design to fit in. That seems to be a number of concerns raised by the neighbors as well.
Yes, Austin Morris, Enclave Development. I'd be happy to answer that. So the depiction that you saw is just a fit test. It shows what we can fit on the site. So it shows sort of how it juxtaposes on the site, the form and the size. The goal with this project, not only do we have condos on the top level, so the design aesthetic becomes even more important. The goal of this project would not be to do a overly modern design and look at the context of the surrounding neighborhood to determine what direction the design goes. So if I'm looking at this based on the neighborhood, based on Oak Grove, and even based on the sort of collegiate style design at Oak Grove school campus, the surrounding trees, the canopy, all those things come into play when we work with the design architect on what would fit best within the neighborhood and work with establishing the best views for the property, as well as if you're a bystander walking around the property or even within the park to the east, what would fit in well and feel contextually like it belonged and that it's been there for decades rather than a new thing that was just built last year. So we want to make sure that this project from an aesthetic standpoint is something that feels good within the neighborhood and isn't something that stands out. If anything, it stands out as being something that's sort of a jewel within the context of the community and takes advantage of the situation on the site, overlooking the river toward Yumcomb Center, and is something that both the renters and the owners of the property can feel really happy about living within the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
All right, any other questions for the applicants? Or any other comments? Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I would just like to make a comment. My standard comment about the expansion of the DMU, that still would not take any stormwater requirements away from them. We'd still have those requirements even with those expansion of the DMU.
All right. Any other questions for the applicants, or are there any other comments from the applicants? I think they've done.
This is Jesse Craig. I want to just kind of comment on the stormwater retention. You know, the majority of this site was zoned DMU prior. So if anyone's looking at the current GIS site where it shows that it's all zoned MR2, that's not accurate. Correct, Aaron?
Yeah, just correct. There's a portion of this subject property zoned DMU, a portion zoned MR2.
So the stuff that was zoned MR2, Brenda, would that need to have stormwater retention when it's been zoned DMU since 2003?
I don't know if I'm following what you're asking. I'm more than happy to take it offline and have a conversation, but I guess I don't know exactly what you're asking.
Well, when I bought this property, it was already zoned DMU. The majority of the east half of the block was zoned DMU, and I bought it based on the fact that the DMU did not have stormwater retention requirements. And now, when I vacated the alley and put it into one parcel, depicted on the GIS map, it had to show one zoning or the other, and of course they picked the MR2 zoning because it's more restrictive. But in all honesty, that half of the block is still zoned DMU. And so my question, and we can talk about it offline, but we brought it up online, so I just wanted to address it real quick, was, that's going to add a lot of cost to this project, which again wasn't part of the thought process when I bought the property initially. So if if I have to put stormwater retention on an entire site, then this project's dead. It will not move forward because you're going to add about $300,000 to $400,000 worth of cost to it. If it's only the part that we're looking at extending the DMU zoning, then I think there's a conversation to be had. So I just want to clarify that before we move too far forward in our design.
Okay, then that should be a conversation that happens pretty expeditiously, I would say. If it's going to stop your design, we should be having that conversation sooner than later.
Yeah, we've had those conversations previously with Jody Bertrand, Roger Cluck. We've had extensive conversations with them, and they were going to clarify that, but we have not heard anything.
Okay. I will check in with them and get back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that much.
All right. Any other questions, or I'd like to open it up to the public for comment? Anyone from the public wish to speak for or against this project? All right. Hearing none. Commissioners, are we ready to act? Looking for a motion.
I'll move approval. Art Rosenberg.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Rocky. I'll second this.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Jennifer Holtz,
Aye.
Don Morgan,
Aye.
Rocky Schneider,
Aye.
Scott Stoffren,
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer,
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries. All right, folks, it's a little after 4 o'clock. We'll take a 5-minute break and come back at about 17, 18 minutes after 4 o'clock. We'll restart the meeting. Moving on to item 8A. A hearing on the application requesting a zoning change from MR3 multi-dwelling residential to GC general commercial on a portion of the proposed Bulger First Edition. Donald.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, as I said, item 8A and 8B concerns the properties that are owned by Bulger Funeral Home here. Many folks may be familiar with that. 10th Street and 2nd Avenue South here. So here's 10th Street, here's 2nd Avenue South. This consists of the Bulger Funeral Home facility itself, a large parking area, a garage on this property where they store their business-related vehicles, and there's also a residence here that is used as a rental residence. Going back to the zoning map, we see most of the properties are zoned GC, general commercial, which is the appropriate zoning for a business like this, but this lot here is zoned MR3. So the Bulger First Edition proposes to plat all these lots here into 2 lots, and the zone change part would be to zone change, well, it's a new plat, so as we say, we rezone the entire property to GC general commercial. Some of the lots already are, but the whole plat would be GC general commercial there. Just a history note on the plat, the lots that you see depicted on here, these lots here, were part of the original town site of Fargo, platted in 1874. They've never been replatted. Here's what the project site area of concern looks like. This is that yellow house there on 1019 2nd Avenue North. This will be removed. Now this is standing in the parking lot looking west here. This is that garage we looked at. There's the house again. And then this property separates it from the residence on the corner, which is not a Bulger property. That's a private property owner. We did talk to that gentleman, I believe. He did call in to talk to us. Here again, we see the properties here, platted into 2 lots. Just due to the ownership nature of the Bulger business, they want to have 2 lots instead of 1. It's noted in your staff report that this lot here will change to GC general commercial. The garage is here, but there'll be more parking here, and that would require, since it's commercial development next to a residentially zoned area, would require our residential protection standards to apply to that development here. We noted in your staff report that the applicant has talked to us about a residential protection standards waiver, just to make some adjustments for the space there. That is not something that's before your commission today. You're not voting on that today. That will be dealt with when the site plan comes forward with our other staff who handle the site plan. But the applicant just wanted you to know that they're conscious of those residential protection standards, and maybe ask for a couple modifications, but understand the need for those to have that buffering there between the parking lot, the commercial, and the residential. So again, the plat there of the Bulger First Edition and the zone change to make the entire property general commercial. Staff's recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. And there was I did talk to a gentleman today. I don't know if he has called in. Do we have any callers? Ms. Bagley? No. Okay. Well, apparently he was just interested in what was going on, and he had just some related comments to this, but apparently he's not had a chance to call in. So representing the project is Brady Wall of Houston Engineering, and Brady may be on the call there, and I don't know if Mr. Bulger is on the call as well there, Commissioners. So that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
All right. Any questions for Donald, Commissioners?
This is Dawn Morgan. I have a question.
Sure.
Has there been any alteration in the requirements for green space? It just seemed like there was, in the report, it seemed like there was quite a bit of information about that. Is that just the usual report, or have there been some lessening of the requirements?
Well, no, there's never been no alteration in the requirements. I think what you're talking about, maybe referring to there, ma'am, is that the residential protection standards thing. We just brought that up, as I said in my presentation. It's not part of what you're voting on today, but we just wanted to make sure you commissioners were aware, that the applicant was aware that they had to deal with that buffering at the time. So no, there's been no alteration in any requirements of the LDC.
And Donald,
thank you.
Just to clarify that, maybe when they put in, they'll have to put an application in for a parking lot, if that becomes a parking lot, and with that application comes.
That's the site plan review that would go with it. Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? All right, hearing none, any questions for the applicant, or does the applicant wish to speak?
I think Donald covered it well, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Any questions for Bradley? All right, hearing none, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this project?
Dimitri, so this is regarding that last job you did at downtown, place the collar, toilet collar.
Hearing none, I close the public hearing. Commissioners, are you ready to act? Looking for a motion.
Mr. Scott, I move to approve the proposal with the motion in the staff report.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Raphael, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Scott Stoffren,
Aye.
Rocky Schneider,
Aye.
Art Rosenberg,
Art?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Don Morgan,
Aye.
Jennifer Holtz,
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer,
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 9. A hearing on an application requesting a plot of South 40 at Osgood 3rd Edition. Donald, please.
Yes, sir. South 40 at Osgood 3rd Edition is located here in southwest Fargo on 53rd Avenue South and 50th Avenue South. Some landmarks here would be 52nd Avenue South and Drain 27. I think we've probably all been across the 52nd Avenue Bridge across Drain 27 there. There's a bike trail. It's quite an impressive green space through that area. This is just a plat. The zoning is GC General Commercial. It will remain so. It's the appropriate zoning for the development that's taking place there. As you can see from the aerial photograph, the property's split about 60-40-ish right now. Area that's been developed here, area yet to be developed here. That's approximately where the subdivision will create 2 lots, taking access off 50th Avenue South. This is so here we're standing on 50th Avenue South. We're looking east toward the drain. That's about where Lot 2 is going to be. Now we're looking the other way toward the west. That's about where Lot 1 is going to be. Did a little extra walking around there today. Went across the other side. So here we're standing on the west side or the east side of the drain, so you can see the whole property here undeveloped. And there's the adjacent residential area. And then here is we're looking south. Here's that 52nd Avenue Bridge across the drain. Looking south, this is the approximate property line here. I'm not a surveyor, obviously, but that's my approximation there. And here's the drain. You'll see that there actually is quite a distance between the drain and the property. I only bring this up. One of the requirements that we have is to depict on the plat 175-foot dedication from the drain. In the past, your commission has looked for waivers on these things. That's not a consideration here. They're a long way from the drain. There's only a few feet of it that's actually on their property. So it just, in case you were wondering about how that drain situation worked, we are fortunate enough anytime we have just for your commissioner's information, anytime we have a property that touches a drain like this, we work with the Southeast Cass Water Resources District managers, commonly called the Drain Board, and their staff, their board and their staff and city staff work quite well together and work to resolve any concerns that we have on this. City's planning staff and engineering staff go to their regular meeting. There were some couple questions to sort out here. Roger Cluck, one of our stormwater engineers, took care of those with the Drain Board today, or I mean the recent meeting there. So we thank Roger for his assistance there. Here's the plat again, showing the proposed Lot 1 and Lot 2 here. And there's the drain. And I believe, is Tim Gleason from Enclave, are you representing this project, or Tony from MBN?
Yep, Tim here from Enclave. I'm on the line if there's
Tim,
questions.
okay, thank you. And again, just a plat here of the South 48 Osgood 3rd Edition. Recommendation is stated on your staff report and shown on the screen. Thank you, Commissioners. This concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions for Donald, Commissioners? Hearing none. Does the applicant wish to speak, or do we have any questions for the applicant? Seeing neither.
Only if there's any. Thanks,
Okay.
Donald. Presentation.
Any questions? Anyone? All right. I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this project? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are we ready to act?
This is Scott. I move to approve the motion in the staff report.
Thanks, Scott. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Brad Bachmeyer, second.
Second.
We have two. We can flip between Brad or Jennifer. both of you get half a credit. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Don Morgan.
Aye.
Jennifer Holtz.
Aye.
Scott Stoffren.
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer.
Aye.
Rocky Schneider.
Aye.
Art Rosenberg.
Art. Okay, Art, are you still on, Art?
Okay. That's right. We can go. John Gunkelman.
Okay, John Gunkelman. Aye. Motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 10. Hearing on the application of a plot, the West Park 4th Edition. Donald.
Yes, sir. I got another just a plat here, no zone change. This is the West Park 4th Edition. Here's Main Avenue, 42nd Street South, mobile home park here. This area is zoned LI Limited Industrial. It's going to remain at that zoning. This is something you've probably driven by lots of times on 42nd Avenue and never really noticed. That's the case with me here, I know. This is a city lift station and a recycling center here on 42nd Avenue. There's a convenience store here. This is Max, just for a location. This was a large lot that the city owned. As you see, the east portion of it was not developed at all. Wasn't necessary for city services there. And so the city did offer this for sale to adjacent owners. The owner to the east here, which is the Fargo Space Center, it's a storage place, was the purchaser. Part of the requirements of that purchase agreement was to plat this property into theirs, so they didn't just have we call it an orphan lot, a lot that had no access. They had to plat it into theirs, and so this will help complete the transaction, which will take place before the plat is finally recorded. Here is the view from the recycling center here. As you see, it's fenced off. This big green space is just space that'll be developed by the owner here, Thompson Mini Storage or Fargo Space Center. So, and then here we're standing on 41st Avenue, looking through the property. You might see here's the recycling center here. So two versions of the same picture. I'm actually standing in the bed of my pickup truck to get that one. I had to get a little height on that one. The plat here, this is this former city property, plats it together with this lot, and also creates another lot here. The project is represented by Mike Fletchall of Interstate Engineering, who I believe is on the call here today, and staff's recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. That concludes our presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
Any questions for Donald? Hearing none. Does the applicant wish to speak, or do we have any questions for the applicant on this?
This is Mike Fletchall. We have nothing to add, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mike? All right. Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak for or against this project? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are we ready to act? Looking for a motion.
Brad Bachmeyer, I can move to accept findings and recommendations of staff.
Thanks, Brad. I need a second.
Don Morgan, I'd like to second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Rocky Schneider,
Aye.
Don Morgan,
Aye.
Art Rosenberg,
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer,
Aye.
Scott Stoffren,
Aye.
Jennifer Holtz,
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 11. Hearing on an application requesting a zoning change from SR3 single dwelling residential to SR4 single dwelling residential on lots 11 through 14, block 6, Tuesdale's Addition. Donald, please.
Yes, sir. So this is, again, a location that might be familiar to many of you. This is the Mickelson Field here. This is Oak Street North, and the Mickelson Field here. This is the one little part of Oak Street that doesn't have any sidewalk right along the street there. A hill falls off on both sides there. These are 3 fourplexes. They were built in 1962 when the zoning here allowed multifamily. When the zoning ordinance was updated in the late 90s, the zoning here was changed to SR3, which made these lots non-conforming due to zoning, but they continued in operation as fourplexes. There's been a new owner who I believe is on the call here with us today. His plan, we are told by his representative, is to turn these fourplexes into duplexes, actually reduce the number of units per building, which he can do. But even at 6 units, the SR3 zoning would not accommodate that density. So the zone change from SR3 to SR4 is really just to make this development more conforming with the zoning. It doesn't allow any different types of structures that are on here. It does not allow multifamily structures, the 3-story apartment building doesn't allow that to be built here, just to make it somewhat more conforming. There is no plat. This is just a zone change, and takes place on the property here. These are now this sort of yellowish color. They were red for a long time, as I recall. This shows from the front here, Oak Street, where this is going down the hill to the ball fields here. And then this is taken from 9th Street North. This shows the back of it. There's an alley right here too, a public alley. This project takes access from the alley. We did get quite a number of calls from the surrounding neighbors, just wondering what was going on. Our explanation to them was, from where you see this property, you won't really notice any difference. It is, again, a zone change just to make it more conforming. We did have one gentleman who lives on the other side of the block here asked about the access to the alley. Thought it was a little different that you'd have a driveway here and an alley right here, and then hiding behind the bushes here, there's an access between the two. We did refer that question to our traffic engineer, Jeremy Gordon. He took a look at it, and he said, well, you don't see it real often, but there's, it's not a conflict of any city regulations or any traffic flow here. And the callers, we told them they were going to change from fourplexes to duplexes, and the callers thought that might reduce some traffic and activity here, so they were in favor of that. Staff's recommendation is stated in the staff report and shown on the screen, and I believe we have Larry Carcona, who is the representative, and Dmitry Kovalyov, who is the owner. As you probably recognize, Commissioners, this is in the Horace Mann neighborhood. We did notify the Horace Mann neighborhood. They're included on our regular notice, plus we sent them a specific notice and gave them Representative Larry Carcona's contact information if they had further questions. We did not hear back from them. I also myself talked to Merrill Pepcorn, who's a representative of that neighborhood, make him aware of it. So we never did receive any comment from the Horace Mann neighborhood, but we did contact them through our standard processes. Thank you, Commissioners. That concludes staff's presentation.
All right. Any questions for Donald, Commissioners? All right. Does the applicant wish to speak? Are there any questions for the applicant?
Hi,
I
this
would
is
be happy to answer.
yeah. Hi, as me as well. This is Larry Carcona representing Arcadia Parkview LLC. We don't have anything to add, but we would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Hi, Larry. I haven't seen you for a long time. Or don't see
Hey,
you, but I
John.
get to hear you.
Yes, I know. We gotta, yeah.
Any questions? Any questions for Larry?
This is Dawn Morgan. I have just here, it doesn't have anything to do with the vote, but I'm just curious how you're planning on turning those buildings into duplexes. Is it going to be stratified in terms of the second level and the first level, or is it going to be split down the middle?
Yes, thank you for the question. The motor behind this remodeling is necessity. They have been built in 1962, and the plumbing part and the underground part is falling apart. So major remodeling is in need. However, the existing layout doesn't have the sufficient dimensions for the bedrooms and for the bathrooms. So they'll be turned into duplexes because this way the spaces can be a little more generous and a little more marketable. As for the partitioning, each building is going to be divided in half, and each half will have two levels, a lower level and an upper level, with two separate entrances.
Thank you very much. It sounds like a great project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Larry? All right, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to speak for or against this project? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are you ready to act?
This is Rocky. I'll make the motion outlined in the staff report.
Thanks, Rocky. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Dawn Morgan, second.
Thank you, Don. We have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Rocky Schneider,
Aye.
Jennifer Holtz,
Aye.
Scott Stoffred,
Aye.
Don Morgan,
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer,
Aye.
Art Rosenberg,
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, we just have one item left on the agenda, item E1.
So, Commissioners, this is a non-hearing item. This is item E1. Another annexation. You get two in a row because you had one in May. This one's a little different history here. Here we're located, you may recall, doing the Madeline's Meadows subdivisions here. This is 25th Street South. This is 70th Avenue South. Davies High School here. This is Golden Valley, which is, you just did the last couple of Golden Valley additions up here. And then this is Madeline's Meadows. Here's Drain 53 running through here. This would be the next step down, one might say, here along going towards 76th. This is proposed to be annexed. The motivation for this was the city is working again with Southeast Cass Water Resources District to, I always we non-engineers say straighten the drain. That's not exactly what they're going to do, but they're going to reconfigure the drain here and needed some additional territory in the city. This is owned by Sitka Investments, represented here today by John Eunice, and asked if they could, if Sitka would be willing to bring this into the city at this time. There is no plat or zone change for this at this time. This is actually in our extraterritorial jurisdiction. It's zoned agricultural, but it will now be within the city limits so we can facilitate this drain modification. And this is not a hearing, so there's not a recommendation to City Commission as such. What staff's request is that, and this is the platted area, so here you see Madeline's Meadows and the proposed platted area. And there's another property down here which is not owned by Sitka. This is owned by a different owner. Then staff's request is has to do with finding this consistent with the growth plan. We refer to the 2007 growth plan, which talks about expansion 20 years out and 50 years out from the Fargo city limits as they were in 2007. This property here is, just to take a look at the map again, it is contiguous with existing development. It's touching the city limits. It's along a corridor here that is eventually going to be developed here. No further dedication of right-of-way is necessary because this is already here. And so it is does fit in with the areas that can be annexed in the 20-year time horizon, Tier 1, as it's called, 20-year time horizon. And so staff does find that this is consistent with the requirements of the 2007 growth plan, and we just ask that your commission support that finding, and also find it consistent with the growth plan. And Commissioner Gunkelman, even though this is a non-hearing item, it's our practice to have a voice, or I mean a roll call vote for these two.
You will have a roll call vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Cover all the bases.
Any questions for Donald on this? Do we need the applicant on?
I don't know, is John, are you on here, or? You might not have made it here today, okay. Yes, I guess not.
All right, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to
It's
speak?
not a hearing, sir.
Oh, it's not a hearing, so I don't have to. So
That's right.
I can move right to a vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, commissioners, are we ready to act? So they're gonna still vote to approve this?
They'll vote to, yeah, your approval would be to find it consistent with the 2007 growth plan. And then the next step will be staff will schedule this to go to the city commission, which is where the actual hearing for the annexation will take place. We'll probably get that in the next 3 weeks here. So,
all right, so we need a motion to accept the findings of staff.
Yes, sir.
John, this is Scott. I so move.
Second, Start.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not. Roll call vote, please.
Rocky Schneider,
Aye.
Brad Bachmeyer,
Aye.
Art Rosenberg,
Aye.
Jennifer Holtz,
Aye.
Scott Stoffren,
Aye.
Don Morgan,
Aye.
John Gunkelman.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's kind of lonely sitting up here by myself, but, you know, I don't have to worry about all my friends sitting next to me or anything, and actually, everybody, this has worked very well the last 2 times, so thank you again. Mark's got one comment.
Yeah, I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge the staff and thank them for all the work that they did in this Planning Commission meeting for this month. It takes a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes to get the consensus in the neighborhoods to make these meetings go as smooth as they do. And that is part of their job description. However, the uniqueness about this meeting was we had 3 virtual meetings, neighborhood meetings, to help build consensus in the neighborhoods for this actual Planning Commission meeting, which required them to design an entire new way of how to reach out to the neighborhood and how to build consensus virtually. And they put a lot of work into it. And to also add that up, last night we had 9 items on City Commission that were approved. A couple of them were pretty contentious as they went through the process here at the Planning Commission, and went very smooth last night at City Commission too. So it takes a lot of work to be able to make these meetings this smooth, and I just want to appreciate that.
Well, and also I'd like to thank the technical staff here for pulling this all off every week or every month. It's worked very well. And hey, Scott, what's that in the back behind you? That bird doesn't talk, or what's the deal?
You know, he talks, but I'm keeping him muted as much as I can.
I want to know how you do that. Well, thanks everybody. And one of these times we'll get together, but probably not for a little while. So we'll see you next month.
July 7th, sir.
July 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.